to take from yoga the asana, for example, or take out of Buddhism the meditative components, and to in a way say, well, we're scientifically minded people, and the rest of that stuff we can do without. That is a sort of largely pervasive, perhaps unconscious endeavor. It's sort of like our culture primes or prizes scientific reductionism. We don't need the rest of the hocus pocus. We don't need reincarnation. We don't need Buddhist philosophy. We don't need any rituals. We don't need any deities. We don't need any prayers. None of that is relevant to us. What's relevant to us is to practice a technique of closing our eyes, counting our breaths, calming down, putting an EEG monitor on the brain, watching the blood pressure decrease, watching the respiration decrease, and over the course of 8 or 10 weeks, seeing how depression decreases and anxiety decreases. Then we have a kind of conviction or confidence that something is happening. And what my attempt is to draw attention to is that kind of pervasive reductionism has a shadow. In other words, our cultural assumptions based in scientism, based in the dogma, the rigid dogma of scientism, the hubris of scientism, not scientific methodologies, but scientism as a new religion that only believes in the 5 senses, that has discarded any connection to the realm of spirit, any connection to the non-quantifiable. That itself has become a very dangerous set of principles and assumptions that is in part related to the demise of our civilization. In other words, if we look at things like the ecological destruction, the economic divide, the geopolitical instability, these things are all not unrelated, and they have a central origin in human blindness. The way that we don't see the world clearly, and we don't see each other clearly, we don't see our interdependence, we don't see the significance of the causes of our actions over the long haul. We are destroying ourselves as a result of the same kind of blindness that underpins our wish to go to other countries, strip them of their jewels, their crown jewels, and claim them for our own. And while it's true that so many millions of people benefited from mindfulness as a result of this simplification or reductionism, extraction, it's also true that there is actually so much more to benefit and gain if we can understand the context out of which mindfulness comes from. In other words, we've actually shortchanged ourselves. The things that we left behind actually have so much inherent value if we could only adjust our attitude slightly to see their significance in context. And so one of the things I like to say is that we have mindfulness in its original context is for liberation, human liberation. Whereas mindfulness in its most secular context, its most narrow and extracted or essentialized context, is stress reduction. And so the chapter lays out a rationale to understand the loss of this extraction process and to gain an appreciation for what it is that mindfulness is trying to do in its original context, and to then lay out very simply the other pillars that are involved in the Buddhist tradition. And if it comes down to a language game, my colleagues who wrote that book, we are attempting to find a language that allows people access to the whole tradition, so that they see that it's not something to be skeptical or cynical of, but that actually it makes perfect sense. Buddhism has always been rational, scientific. It has been critical. It primes itself on as a tradition of education, not of metaphysical speculation and belief. And so there's really no need to be so suspicious and to practice this kind of division, this false division or extraction. Actually, it's just if there was the right language, we could invite people into a process of understanding and appreciating all that there is to gain from the full tradition. And so, what are these other things? And I'll stop there. I'll just earmark it there that the three pillars that I'm talking about in this chapter are the two sister disciplines that come together with the mindfulness or meditative tradition, one being the tradition of wisdom or insight, and the other tradition of ethics or virtue.
Hey, welcome to Today Dreamer, a podcast and YouTube channel where we explore the interplay between inner and outer work, and we look at what cultivating the practice of presence within our lives feels and looks like once we clear the mind and open the heart. So this is just a short clip from a full podcast episode, which I'll leave a link to around here somewhere. And if you'd like to check out the whole catalogue of episodes along with guided meditations and what I have on offer, please head over to todaydreamer.com and have a peek. Also, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and click the little notification bell so you don't miss any of the good stuff to come.